Hello, my friends. John LaRuffa here with another Straight Up Solo. And in this episode, we're going to take a look at the trade expansion for Dice Realm, specifically focusing on the two different solo modes that I guess were in the second edition of the base game, but also were featured here in this expansion as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, folks, and as usual, please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. If you have, I really do appreciate that support. Thank you very much. So, first things first. The trade expansion, whether you play solo or multiplayer, gives you all these new abilities in this entire tray. So it does come with an awful lot of different tiles, different event kind of tiles you can use, different lines, etc. that's in there. It also gives you, for the solo and co-op, another red die that you build that's called the invasion die. And you play with this in two different ways. First of all, you can play the most basic of the solo versions, which is you set the game up just like you normally would. And instead of just rolling the fate die, you roll the fate die, but you also roll this invasion die. And whenever the invasion die shows a victory point symbol, the invasion player or your opponent takes that many victory points from the supply and puts them in their own supply. And that supply can be actually stolen from if you have attack cards in, or it just is what it is, okay? There's no way to defend against that. They take the victory points when they roll it. Now, everything else on this die might as well be blank, okay? So it doesn't matter. And by the way, there are 3 difficulty levels in both the invasion mode and the timed attack, or the timed mode, and I'm explaining the time mode just right now. And you can see it right here where you build the die in a different way. And in the invasion mode, that's all the changes. In the timed mode, you have to deal with an extra bump at the very end, either 15 or 10 or 15 points to the sum of the value of this die plus those. And so you play the game basically the exact same as you would a multiplayer game, except you're rolling this die. And in order of operation, the way it goes is you resolve the fate die first, then you resolve the invasion die, then you can re-roll, attack, etc. Okay, you can do all that. The rest of the game, the whole game, is basically the same. Now, the other thing the game does give you is these orange dies in the expansion that you can use, and they start off in the commerce side of things. So it starts as a prospector with all the faces showing that, but you can easily move it into the other orange, or you can cross do it, or whatever you want to say. So there's that. And the invasion mode, I know it sounds similar, kind of weird, like I'm saying invasion mode, and I've got an invasion die. You're always using the invasion die, but in the invasion mode, this die actually attacks you. And so it will do all the bad things on the die unless you defend against it. For instance, it will deny you one of your dice to use. But it has nothing, this has nothing to do with anything. It's a little confusing. It confused me for a while. And it's in the rules. I'm not going to complain because it really says it right there. I just missed it. But this money symbol and the grain symbols on the bottom, wherever they are, like there, that's ignored, okay? But in the invasion mode, everything else happens to you. So you might lose 2 grain when it attacks. You might lose a die, unless you, of course, you have ways to defend, shields. It will still take the points away, and it will even do the destruction of your faces, and you have to repair those, okay? And you can attack this back just like you could in the other mode by stealing things back from the victory point side, and it tells you exactly how to do that depending on the type of attack you are using against it. So that's it. Now in that mode, you actually start off with 3 dice. You don't start with this one, but you start with 3 basic dice like this to roll. So you get like a kicker, plus you have, I think, 8 grain to start. Yeah, it's 8 grain, and you get to do 6 points of upgrade first. And so that one allows you to kind of get a jump start on some of the base game, and it makes it more of a combative style game where you're going to need to use some shields and things like that. So it increases the aggression, I guess, If you don't want to play like that, if you want to play with a different kind of mode where there's not a lot of attacking, you could just do the timed mode and that'd be totally fine. Now, the other thing is let's see, what else is there in this? It's different. Pretty much that's it. Honestly, it's, there's a lot of different tiles. There's a bunch of mini campaigns they include. And so you get the recommendation stuff, but you can also do these mini campaigns and they tell you exactly what to do. So it's like a 3-game campaign, and there's things that you carry over. So there's this one, Winter of Discontent. This one for the experiences, War and Plague. And then in the expansion rules, they give you even more of them. They give you March on the Capital and Revenge of the Merchants. So you've got a bunch of those that you can go with. And those are the mini campaigns. Now you still have all of the other suggested things that have always been there. There's the suggested ones. Actually, it's not in this. It's on the back of this. There's all these recommended setups from the base game you can do, and then there's a bunch of recommended setups now from the expansion you can do. And they have some that are specific to the actual solo and co-op mode. Okay, if that's for the expansion, but if you don't have the expansion, if you just have the second edition, I guess you already have, where is it, this player guide, which gives you the same thing, but it only includes the base game. So I didn't know that this was available, and that's a shame on me, that this was available without having to, get into the expansion. But I'm not sure exactly how you got it, but it comes with the expansion if you just get that. And that is the second edition stuff, which is the ability to play solo and co-op. Also, there's a small little change here. Instead of using the, I can't remember what it was called, the Inventor maybe, or something like that, Innovation, you will change this to Lawlessness, which makes the fate die a little bit more punitive than it normally is. That is, if there are no other events that are modifying your fate die. And in the expansion, there does come with a lot of that too. They have all of these different things that you can add to that die. So there is a decent amount of content. All of this is basically new. The new die being that the one that comes custom to the orange line is new too. So you get a decent amount there. But I will say this, it feels very much like the base game did in the first place, which may be a good or a bad thing depending on where you are with this game. So let me tell you what I think about it. So right off the bat, I will say that if you liked Dice Realms before, you will still like it with this expansion. It does not add so much complexity or anything like that it's going to make you feel like, oh my goodness, this whole game is now just too much for me to handle. Far from it. It adds variations on the same theme. And they are cool. You've got a lot more things you can mix in. So if you've played a lot of the base game, now you have a ton of extra stuff you can bring into the mix, and that might be something you might be really looking for. I didn't know that the base game already had a flushed out professional solo mode, so that was my fault. I could have probably found that out had I known, and I would have had a little bit more of pondering. Do I want to spend the money on the expansion compared to what you get? And I definitely was in for the expansion because I really want to play a solo. So that was where I'm like, oh, geez, I kind of screwed that up, but that's on me. So let's talk about value here. If you like this game in the first place and you want to spend the extreme money for the expansion, which the MSRP of $80 is a lot of money for this expansion. There's just no doubt about it. It does give you a lot of additional content, but I still think it's about $40 too expensive for what you get. Maybe $30 if you think about the trays and stuff. But man, and I know the base game is expensive, but geez, that's a lot. So I have a hard time recommending this for the casual player of this game. If you love the game and you really want more content and it's worth it to you, for sure, this is a good expansion. It provides a bunch of extra content. And I like what they did. I think the modules are interesting. I think they're fun. Like, for instance, this winery one that I was just using, it gives you the opportunity to get additional points. I'm sorry, not points, but, well, some of them, but points, money, or crops and money for having grain or the wine cards faces showing, okay? And so that means you can get a little strategy going where that's actually how I won my game just now. I had a bunch of those set up so that by the time I rolled a couple of dice, I would have 3 of those faces showing, and that means that I would get a 3x multiplier on all that. That gave me a ton of grain, and then I used this rural church to sell all that grain and salvage what was going to be an epic defeat into a close win in the game I just did. And I think that's cool. I think that's fun. Both of those were expansion buildings, and so I like what they did with the expansion, and I like that they put some more interaction and some more combo style stuff in it. So it isn't as, I mean, there was combos in the original game. Don't get me wrong, but they seem to have leaned into that, which I appreciate. But I do think that it's just a lot of money to spend for expansion. So I'm on the fence about how to recommend this. I would say if you were just okay on Dice Realms, I would not spend your money on this. If you just had kind of it's all right, I'll occasionally take it because it's just too much. And especially since the solo mode is available offline, so to speak, or without having to buy it. Or if you bought the second edition of the Dice Realms, I think it just comes with the base game now, which is good. It should have really in the first place, but that's not necessarily, I mean, I'm glad it is here now, okay? So I'm not faulting the designer. It's just, I'm glad you put it in. Seems like this is a very apologetic review. That's not really what I intended to be. But anyway, the point is, I think that there is a certain group of people who are going to like this expansion, but there's a vast majority of people who are going to say that's just too much money for it. Since I already own it, I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm not going to sell it or anything. I'm going to keep it because I like the base game a lot, and it adds a lot of stuff. And I like the idea of doing those little mini campaigns and such, and the combinations are cool. So I already liked it. I was in the camp that I was holding on to this game, just waiting for some type of solo situation. And so I really enjoy it. And so it's worth it to me. But I don't think it's going to be worth it for everybody. That being said, I hope this was an informative review, even though I didn't go deeply into all the combos. But I know you could do that on your own if you're on the fence whether you want to buy it or not. Both solo modes are fine. Ironically speaking, I found that, and you're going to get this too. This is one thing that's true about the solo mode. A lot of it is going to depend on how you built that dice. If you have it in the easy mode, it can be very forgiving. Many of these faces do not penalize you at all on the easy mode if you are playing in the non-invasion game. They're blanks, right? And so that makes it a lot easier. However, it's interesting because even in the easy mode, I was rolling this face again and again and again and again, where it just kept taking 2 points away. So it really accelerated my game pretty quickly. That's going to happen. This solo mode feels a lot like the base game in the fact that you can have some runaway dice luck that can speed things up, and you got to try your best to keep up and adapt and use your rerolls and maybe spend some money on the ones where you can set the dice. So it's not just complete no way to mitigate that. You just have to think, this is going pretty quick. I can't lollygag on building my engine anymore. I got to strike get as many points as I want. And I do like that. But it is a dice game. There's randomness. So be aware of that. I never felt like the solo was cheaty or anything like that. And actually, I thought both modes were equally enjoyable depending on the kind of game I wanted to play. If I wanted to play a game with attacks, I used the invasion side. If I wanted to play a game where the points were scored other ways, I use the time side. So it gives you a nice way to go for both. So it's not like, well, when I'm playing the solo, I've always got to deal with attacks, so I better put the hero in, or I better build towers, or whatever it is. And I do appreciate that variety too. So there's some good stuff there, and I think the solo mode is well done for a game that it would be it's just kind of an interesting situation trying to simulate your opponent. So thanks so much for watching, everybody. I really appreciate it. Whatever you do in the future, I really, really hope you have a fantastic time doing it. Take it easy.